Okay, we got some in the area. To know that if there's a way that we can communicate, and I think that's the beauty of this dialogue here today, is so that we can communicate and kind of understand what's going on in the minds of our young people, so that we can continue to help and support. And so, like I said early on, I've been blessed and privileged to work in the United States. We have about 25,000 Vietnamese Eucharistic youth members, and over 3,000 of our youth leaders who are young adults. And so while some of the sharing that I'm about to share, they're not scientifically validated just because of the virtue of not being published, eventually we'll get there. But sort of this is anecdotal as we go around to we have today 130 chapters all around the country, and each chapter is like a parish all around. And these are some of their voices that they have shared. Now granted, this is not all absolute conclusive of 100%, but it is the majority of what folks are saying. First is, I think some of you Father highlighted, the voice of young people, right? And while we hear it all the time, and we hear church leaders, and even referencing and quoting St. John Paul II, that young people not only is the future of the church, they are the present of the church. And we hear this all the time. When it comes down then to the meat and gritty, put your money where your words is, the first thing that we're going to cut is youth ministry. The first thing that we're going to sideline is the voice of young people. And I'll share this from an anecdotal experience here. How many of you here been to Marian days in Carthage, Missouri? Mostly it's the Vietnamese camping, that's why. So you may not know this. It is the largest Catholic gathering in the United States.
Wow. Yes.
It is the largest gathering. Bigger than National Eucharistic Congress here. Here we're looking at, 45,000, 50,000 people, right? In Carthage, Missouri, every year, 80,000 Vietnamese Catholics gather.
For how many years already?
How many years already? Just to say,
40 years.
40. It happens every year. And it is now sort of the day, the number one source of economical growth for Carthage, Missouri. And imagine that now, many of us have not even heard of it. And I communicate with some of our American bishops, no clue.
Right.
And guess what? It is driven by Asian American. We have the largest gathering there. So back to my point there, it's our youth ministry, they're there while it's gathered, young people, it's important, etc. But guess what our task is? All right, let's hold the umbrella. Let's form a human chain. Let's go and do all these sort of minuscule things. But when our request, we need a tent, we need a place for us to do ministry, we need praise and worship, we need a speaker, we need this and that. Well, the resources aren't there. We prioritize the other things. So I think the number first is to kind of really hear and understand what our young people are experiencing. Here's another good example. During COVID, we look at Health and Human Services data, and also we look at CARA, where they did a study within Catholic ministry. Out of 100 youth during COVID, where they are now quarantined or strict social isolation and homebound, how many church reached out to our young people during COVID? So let's say out of 100, all right, guess, give me a number. 3. Let's give our church some more credit. 20, all right, you're giving way too many credit. 10. So out of 100 youth, 10%, where the church actually called and reached out and said, hey, are you okay? Hey, how are things going? Known with our young people during COVID, that's their major milestone, unable to go to college, graduation, high school graduation, birthday parties, and all of these things are important to them. Where was the church? But yet, we keep on hearing, young people is so important in our church. Something to think about. And now, with young people, and all of us as human beings, social beings, relationship is key, right? Whether relationship with God, with one another, social beings were designed by our creators to have relationship. And so imagine why our young people now are leaving the church more. Because they don't feel that relationship, they don't feel that connection that's there. And within our own VUIM, while it's sad, but it's giving us data. They will show up for the ministry. They will show up to do activities with the kids. They will come and lead training camp, etc. And when it comes time for the master to leave. That's telling. What do they yearn for? They yearn that relationship while helping the kids, while leading. It's meaningful to them. And yes, there's a gap there. They need to understand the theology of the Mass and all of that, right? But that's a gap that we're hearing. And for a lot of our young people too, the language barrier now becomes a challenge for some. Just kind of imagine you attending Mass, and then despite our effort to encourage the priest or the pastor to kind of even just put out 5 minutes speaking in English just so that they can understand, they can digest the material. That often does not happen regularly. You know, while we understand the Mass is important, I share a personal experience. I was in Rome and I had the blessing of encountering our Holy Father in an audience. So I'm sitting right here. Pope Francis is sitting where you're at, sir, kind of like right there. And like many of us, guess what? We're hyped, we're excited. How can you fall asleep, right? Then Holy Father started talking for 45 minutes in Italian. It was hot outside. We've been walking all day. And I'm literally sitting there. For the first 5 minutes, I was hyped, you know, taking photos, selfie, and all of that. Within like 10 minutes, I'm starting to. The time zone difference and what have you, right? And so regardless of who, could be the Pope sitting right there. I was falling asleep like literally 15 minutes because I could not understand what he was saying. I turned to my right, our priest who was sitting there, and he was so that's to say, right? The language still, it's a barrier in terms of us that's helping. And so as much as our young people, they feel like their voice aren't being heard, is there. And in Parish Council, and I'll ask you, how many of your Parish Council here within your church, you have a young people or young adult representative? Not many. I think some they're starting to. And even with the ones that we have represented, are they represented because what they say matters and bring value, or let's just have you say so that we can check the box and get it done, right? Tokenism. Excellent. There we go. See, so that's something that we're inviting all to hear. And now, as that's feeling that they feel like the voice not being heard, like relationship, more likely they're drafting out. Now, within our own community, within our own Asian American family, you know, Asian American, we're a collectivist community. You know, what that means is the needs of the community supersedes that of the individual. And so what you do need to bring honor and pride to the family, etc. And so parents will be more likely to boast about their kid and how great they are, if they're going to church, if they're going to be a doctor or an engineer, etc. But when they encounter challenges, real challenges, we kind of diminish it or invalidate their feelings. Something to come bring out. Young people of this day and age is different from my parent generation. You know, back just only some recent years, phones wasn't around. Many of us have great memories. We remember everybody's phone numbers. And now, our generation here, life is on this. They take it everywhere with them. You heard the joke earlier. I think Brian made a joke. What do you mean I don't have my phone? We all have it. Some of us have 2 phones. We sleep with it. Literally, it's right there with you at all times. And so this is sort of their life now. They're connected to here. And a lot of time too, certainly there's understanding mental health behind it, but a lot of our parents, our first generation may not fully understand. And then there's the pressure of doing well, the pressure of doing what it is that you're supposed to do. Believe it or not, my own brother, mom, first generation, of course, he's wanted him to be a medical doctor. And you need to go there because that's what Asian people do, right? Go pursue an education, etc. And he felt pressure to, because if he not go that route, he is being defined or not obedience to mom, and that's disrespectful, values within our Asian community. And so he tried. And he did pre-med, and did exceptionally well. And then he quit, dropped out of school. Right? And I think many of us too have to come and understand not all brains are designed to be a medical doctor. Just as not all brains are designed to be an artist, for example. He wanted to be an artist, and that was his passion. And so now he's happy, he's doing web design, and he was able to go back and finish school with a degree in art. And so, but then he too needs to understand the sacrifice of mom to leave, fall of Saigon, the communist persecution, to come to the United States. So certainly if you're the parent, you want the best for your kid. But again, there's that gap there of understanding. So that's the other piece of not being understood. And then really the last piece is sort of what I haven't heard yet throughout this whole entire gathering. And that may be reflective of our Asian cultures, that anything that's shameful, let's not bring it up. And I'm referring to mental health. There's a huge, profound stigma within our Asian community when it comes to mental health. Because why? If you or someone you know are diagnosed with depression, schizophrenia, and what have you, you're a bad family. Or you've been cursed in some way, however ways you believe. And now you shy away from it, not talking about it. And if you have a son or daughter who've asked, hey, can I get some help? Can I get a counselor? Can I see someone? The response, which we've seen in some of the families, is, oh, you're okay. Just give it some time. You know, go to church more often and pray more, and things will be done. Not to say that power of prayer is not effective, but even God put doctors in place so that we can get the spiritual care holistically, medically, and psychologically. And so recognizing the need of our young people these days, they're not like us where they're shameful of reaching out for help. Actually, they are, if they're communicating to you, that's their way of telling you, I need help, and I need you to be supportive to me. And so that's sort of the three key things that I think that if time permits, to have a dialogue to understand, and what can we do? So how can we truly listen to the voice of young people? Truly listen, and not just check the checkbox. And how can we include or have young people present, and it matters, and have that be a practice for our ministry? How can we communicate so that young people can understand the generational differences, what our parents, what they go through, and then allow ourselves to listen, listen with an open heart, to hear what they go through, and not invalidate and not diminish sort of their thoughts and experience. And then when they reach out for help, that is their call. Because I've seen many parents, they are in regret when suicidality occurs, attempts, etc. That happens. So in a nutshell, a little bit about young people. Now, there is a space for all of us to meet together. So I'll share this quick story. So there's a young Vietnamese 17-year-old, and he had a first-generation parent, older. And so now he's at this age 17, he want to have a car. And all of his friends has cars, so peer pressure, like, hey, Dad, I want to have a car. And him being influenced by pop culture, he has this very spiky hairdo, kind of like really high up, right? And Dad being traditional, that's. You just happen to be the partner here. So Dad, not really like it because it doesn't represent the family. And so he nagged, hey, Dad, I really need a car. Dad, we need you to get me a car. And so Dad said, you know what? All right, son, since you're a Catholic and you're in the movement, you know what? We'll make a deal. If you cut your hair, right? If you cut your hair and learn the Bible, study because you're a Catholic, then we'll give you the car, right? And so the son was like, oh, come on, Dad. The girls dig my hair. I can't cut my hair, right? And so Dad said, hey, you want the car or not? And so guess what? He stopped me, think about it. You know what? If I cut my hair, what will happen? Hair will grow back. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, I'll spend some time reading the Bible a little bit, and that'll be it. I'll get a new car. And I was like, Dad, deal. So he went home, opened up the Bible, and he started reading. And as he was reading, the light bulb shined. I was like, the wisdom of the Bible is telling me that I need to keep long hairs. So he went back and said, Dad, I need my car now. And Dad said, well, I thought the agreement was you cut your hair and you learn the Bible. And he said, Dad, you asked me to learn the Bible, but you know nothing of the Bible. He said, how dare you? And so he said, Dad, in the Bible, who is it that if you cut his hair, he gets weaker? And if you let his hair grow longer, he becomes stronger. Who is it? Samson, right? So Dad was like, man, this kid is good. He was like, you know what? That's one story. Now you want a car, go back, cut your hair, study some more Bible, and come back. So the son's like, all right, you know what? Now I'll go back. So he studies some more. And more the Bible is saying, you know what? Keep your long hair. So he went back and said, Dad, I need the car. And Dad said, I thought we had a deal. And he said, Dad, in the Bible, who has the courage to stand up and challenge the Pharaoh, free the Israelite, and was given the 10 Commandments by God? And that person is You look at all the footage of Moses, he got long hair all the way down there. And Dad was like, oh man, you know what? Third time's the charm. He said, go back, cut your hair, otherwise you're not getting the car. So the young boy went back and studied some more. And every single page of the New Testament, it screams out, you keep your long hair. So he went back and said, Dad, I need to get the car. He said, we had a deal. I said, Dad, who is King of all kings? God of all God. He died and saved you, died for us and saved us so that we can have an inheritance of eternal life. And that person is? Jesus. And did Jesus have long hair? Yeah. All the way down here. So Dad was like, man, you're good. And he said, you know what, son? All those three characters, they all walked. None of them car.
All walks and no car.